Hey Simonics, what's up? Welcome back to a new Ionic and Capacitor tutorial, and today we're going to focus on push notifications once again. We had local notifications in the past, we had one signal in the past, but today we will try to make this in the easiest possible way. We will just use Ionic, Capacitor and Firebase, since Firebase API or the project key is anyway required for Android, and we will integrate iOS, and that's what we're going to do now. So what I did so far is I actually created the whole application, so we can go through all the different parts and I don't have to type today because the code is actually not too important today. It's more like the configuration. So what I did is I started a blank new app with Angular and Capacitor. I also directly specified my package ID. If you already have an application, then this is of course not an option for you, but you can still set this in your capacitor config.json file right here. And if you already created your platforms for Android and iOS before, maybe get rid of them and create them again, or search for the string that's currently in here, because it is added in a few places in the iOS and Android folder. So that's really important to make your bundle ID work. Now, if you start a blank new app, you can simply set it right here. It's the one you create in the iOS developer portal, and we will take a look at this in a second as well. Then you can directly go into it, run Ionic build and add your platforms, and then we're able to configure everything that we need. What I did as well in here is I added a little block for push notifications within the plugins object. So in here you can set a few different presentation options. I think these are actually all available. So you can change the badge, you might be able to play a sound, and this is also to display an in-app alert, or actually at least show the notification at all when the application is open, because when the application is in the background you will get the notification anyway, but if the application is already open, you usually don't see this little top notification, and this should hopefully change it. So that's our capacitor config. I will get to the other things that I added in a second. For now, let's try our integration. So what you need is, first of all, a Firebase project. You can create a new one, you can use your existing, doesn't really matter. Go to project overview, project settings, or if you're in a fresh project, you will also have a button to add an app right here in your overview, but here is the place where you can always find it. So in here you will see your apps. Usually that is empty in the beginning. As you can see, I added 2 applications, and to do this, simply click add app. No, web is of course the wrong type. First of all, let's go for Android. Enter your package name, which would be now the thing you specified in here. So simply put this in. I have already used this, so no problem. You can give it a nickname and then just register the app and download the according file, which is a Google Services JSON file. We can see this right here in our Android app. We could actually download it once again. This is now basically the Android configuration part for push notifications. So download that file, the Google Services JSON, and then within your project go to Android app and put the file right there next to the build Gradle and capacitor build Gradle. That's your Google Services JSON. And as far as I know, yeah, that's actually everything for Android push notifications. So if you only need Android push, you can basically skip until the end of the video, because what now follows is the iOS push integration, and this is not as easy as Android. So if you're ready, go to your iOS or Apple developer program, which means you of course need to be a paid user of this program, enrolled in this program. And then you can get started by creating a new identifier if you haven't so. And you're gonna go with the app ID, which is what you always do for a new application. And once again, this is the place where your bundle ID is used. And the only important thing is to go down this list and to enable push notifications. Then just give it a description, click continue, and you're done. Let's see where my application is. There it is. So here's my bundle ID. I just gave it a random name, and we can see push notifications is enabled. I think we could actually edit it from here. Yeah, we could, but I feel like there's a better way to integrate your push notifications. So there are actually two ways. You could create a new certificate and then select from down here Apple Push Notification Service. Then you're gonna select your application. Can I do this? Yeah. And then you have to create the signing request. You might have done this in the past. You would open the keychain access. From there, you would go to request a certificate from a certificate authority. You run the dialog. You save this to disk. You upload it to Apple, and then you finally get the certificate for push. But in fact, there's actually an easier way that I also took for this application. That is to create a key instead. So I think you can only have 2 Apple Push keys, at least for my account. So you've already reached the maximum allowed number of keys for this service. You can give it a name and simply enable this, and this will give you a .p8 file. And this file can be used now directly for Firebase. So now we are back in Firebase. Just note, I recommend that you take the key step if you have keys available, because for the certificates you then still need to export it a bit. I will tell you a bit more about it in a second. So please, if possible, go with the keys, create the push key and download the P8 file. Back to Android. Add your iOS application, just like we did before with Android. So once again, add your bundle ID. You don't really need any other information, and you can download another file. This time it's a plist file. It's the Google Service Info plist. Yeah, there it is. I could download it once again now. But now the important part is to go to cloud messaging, and within your iOS app configuration, upload your key. I don't really want to delete it right now. Come on. Yeah, whatever. I will just delete it. If it's not working now, it's because I just deleted it here. So for the upload, I would now don't do the drop. I messed this up once again. Do the browse. Enter your team ID detected for this app. Thank you very much. And the key ID is actually right within here. So you could look it up. Right here is also the key ID, but basically it's in the name. So upload it, and then Firebase has all the information to contact the Apple Push Notification Service and to send a push to your application. If you can't use a key and you need to use a certificate, the problem is that I now can't upload anything. The problem is that the file you receive at the end from the certificate is just a CER file, C-E-R. That's not the file that expected here, so you would have to install the certificate to your keychain by double-clicking. Then you need to select it and export the file from this, which would then again be a P8 file, I think. So it's a bit more complicated if you go with certificate. It's still possible, but I just recommend the key, since you see you just configure it, upload it here, enter the credentials, which are pretty obvious. Your team ID is basically within your Apple developer account right here, and the key ID is inside the key. So that's really, I think, a lot easier. Now, I think we're done with the configuration from Firebase. We need to make sure that we got the key right here for our cloud messaging, and then we got added the Android and iOS applications. Now we can use the Google Service Info plist, and this file goes straight to our Xcode. I already got the file right here. Let me quickly remove the file just to show you something, because I now need to download it again. Yeah, there we go, download file. it's important that you don't just copy that file into your Visual Studio Code or I don't know, anywhere else. It's important that you really drag the file right here in the application folder and click copy items if needed. Otherwise, this file isn't really added to your iOS application, and therefore your application wouldn't work. Okay, so we previously added the Android file to Android. That was a lot easier. Now we've added the iOS file to iOS. So what follows now is a bit, I would say a bit more complicated because we get into native code. We could do this from Xcode, we could do this from Visual Studio Code. It doesn't really matter. Do it wherever you want. So from Xcode, you can go to iOS app pod file, which is the file in which Capacitor specifies which pods, basically additional libraries for iOS, are installed. And what we need to do is right here after this line where it already says add your pods here, we have to type pod Firebase messaging. So this will then in the background install the Firebase messaging pod, the library needed to use the push notifications with Firebase. Once you're done with this, you can also run npx cap update iOS, because cap update iOS will reinstall all the pods specified in your pod file, and that's now needed. Not just a sync or an Ionic build, really, we need to update the native platform. That is step 1, or I don't know how many steps we already had for iOS, but too many. But in fact, that's not the end. What we need to do as well is get into the app delegate file. This file is inside iOS app delegate.swift. And there are 3 changes we need to apply to this file. Change number 1 is add the import for Firebase at the top of the file. Change number 2 is add Firebase app configure. Where's actually Firebase app coming from? I'm not really into Swift anymore, I guess, because you import Firebase. This is available for JavaScript. That's kind of confusing, but I can assure you this is the right way to do it. So this is step number 2. And yeah, for Swift, you don't need the semicolon. Step number 3 is to get the token correctly. There's right now, or there should be right now, already at the bottom of a file, this little if use push, and there are 2 small functions as far as I know. So the first function looks a bit like, it looks basically like the second one, just a tiny bit different, and it's about how your application returns the token back to the JavaScript code. And we need to change this to this little line. Actually, you can check out the tutorial linked right below the video, or you can also go to Capacitor Ionic framework, get started, push. Is it in here? Nope, it's in their own guide. I think, there we go. There is the little snippet as well. So this is what we can do. Did register for remote notifications with device token. So that's what you want to override. Again, check out the link below the video to the code, and also for the rest of all the code. So with that in place, we got the app delegate. We're at 50 minutes. We haven't seen anything working, so we should hurry up a bit. Now, again, the 3 changes to the app delegate: import, configure, and this little block to correctly return our data. And I think at this point we can finally get back into our native, or not native, into our Ionic application, because I thought it would be a great way to simply have all of this inside a service. And therefore I ran 2 commands. I ran Ionic generate services. Can I just close this? FCM, and I created a little page as an example for you on how you could navigate within a push notification. So additional service, additional page, go ahead and create it. For the service, I basically took a lot of the code from the documentation, only added a few tiny changes. So again, we will just go through it, check out the code in the tutorial below. This little function is what's actually the only public function of this class. I don't need to add public because that's the standard, but everything else in here is just private. Actually, there's just one more. Just to filter out that we don't run all of this on the web, because it's kind of ugly when you always see these red arrows, you're on the web, push is not available or anything like this. So just add this little statement and this will make your life a lot easier. So then once you register for push, if you're not on the web, this will first of all request the permissions. So if you want to ask for this at a later point, make sure that you only call this really at the specified time. So don't do it like we do. We will immediately call inside our app component the init push. Perhaps you call it after a user has logged in, which might make more sense for your application, or maybe even on a details page where the user subscribed to anything for push notification. So really, this is the place you want to delay if you want to ask for push notifications at a later point of time in your application. As you can see, this will then simply register your device. And on registration, so now after this little dialog, we add a few listeners. The first listener is for the registration. If it was successful, you will now get a token. In a lot of tutorials, you will also see how this token is now stored to Firebase in order to connect it with a user ID. That's totally legit, but we will leave out the Firebase database today in order to just really only focus on push. Registration error is, I guess, pretty clear to you. Then we got push notification received. This basically always happens when you receive a push, so that's why the name is push notification received. The other important thing is push notification action performed, and this means the user has clicked on the notification in the notification center or just in the bar that comes up from top. Just notification receives means the app might be in the background and has just received this notification, so there's not really a lot you can do in here. For now, we will just log it out, and for the action performed, which means the user clicked on it, we will actually do a little routing. So within the notification, I actually don't know what this is, notification, and then we got notification again, but well, that's just it. We can wrap some data in the notification. I will show you how in Firebase in a minute. And if we get the data, and the data contains details ID, just whatever you could name this, blog post ID or product ID, wherever you want to go. Really, the information you want to pass to your data, to your app, could be anything, just additional strings, a payload that you pass to your app with the push. And we will use this details ID to navigate to a URL that we specified in our app routing. So here's the place I changed the automatically generated block that comes once you run the generate page command to home/ID, which means we can navigate to the details page and pass an ID. So that's exactly what we want to do with push notification action performed. We've seen that we trigger the init push right in our beginning. And within our details page, we can simply use now the route params to get this ID and to display it within our view. Additionally, I added a little function to show you how you could reset the batch count. So we specified this in the beginning to use the batch count, and we will also increase it from Firebase. And with the reset batch count, we can use the push notifications directly from Capacitor and call remove all delivered notifications. So this should, as far as I know, remove everything from the control center that you can drag from the top, and also clear the batch count. Okay, great. We got a lot of stuff in place. I've actually deployed the application to all of my devices. I also prepared them with a little screencast, so we can now hopefully take a look at it. Yeah, it looks like I can't find my iOS device. Thank you, really, that was my intention. Okay, there we go. We got 2 devices. I will just put it here. My head is really uninteresting now. So that's not what we need. We need to go back to Firebase because we now want to send out some push notifications. There are now 2 ways to use your push notifications. Number one is let's just duplicate this one for now. Number one is to send a test message. In here, you can use your own tokens and you could find them from the capacitor log. So perhaps at the beginning, you will see somewhere, there it is, my token. And that's exactly the value that you could use now to test your token. I think that's the token I already added. Yeah, basically the same. And I can now send a test push. And there we see already our push notification. But let's also try the standard way. So this is really nice for testing just on one specific device. And this one here was my information. So Simon's push title, a little notification text. This is really optional both. And you can go to next. You can select your app. Let's stick with iOS for now. Schedule now. And here are our additional fields and the details ID that I wanted to pass. So I will just pass the string Simon was here. Maybe not the best because it's used in the route, but well, whatever. I also enabled the batch. Let's set this to 3. And then we're gonna push this one out to my device. And there we go. Simon's push, join the Ionic Academy. We should now also see our batch count was set to 3 because we specified this in the app. And I could now go from the notification center to my notification, click it, and I would immediately arrive on the details page, simply because we got the logic in place to on action performed. We grab the details ID from the payload and we route forward. So that means we don't really need any other deep link setup or anything like this, since we can just catch the information within action performed or notification received. Perhaps in here you could also otherwise display a little alert with options for the user. Let's say go to a chat or check out latest offers. Really no need to use any deep link stuff. And now I could also reset my batch count and the application is back to empty. Let's quickly to wrap this up also check out Android because I don't want come on. I hate it. Let's just keep it open. Let's duplicate the Android push. Once again, let's use the same data, but target the Android platform, schedule now, details ID, whatever. Let's keep it like this, and then I will push it out, and hopefully it arrives on my Android device. I'm actually think, let's try it again. It doesn't cost anything, so let's push it out. Next, Android, next. Review and go time, go push. Yes, there was a little change to our icon and there is my push. So let's use this one, go into the app, and then we should hopefully be on our second page, details page with push 42. Looks like I haven't deployed the latest version here, but that's no problem. So this was the full capacitor push notifications guide with Ionic and Firebase. This is like the perhaps easiest solution, since you don't really need any other external service. You just need for Android this one file, which is really a very fast configuration. For iOS, a lot of steps. I really recommend you check out the tutorial link below the video, which also contains all the code that we've used in this tutorial. And then I hope you will send out some great push notifications to your users. Please don't overdo it because push notifications can definitely be a bit annoying, so implement it and use your power wisely. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.